Go ahead, Mike 2.
We
have to have the guy up here. Hold on a second. When he comes back up, we'll check it again.
For those people that have resolutions that have not been copied, there are going to be new resolutions that the National was not sent. If you would go to the registration desk, they will make 150 copies for you so you can hand them out to the reps when we go into the new resolutions business tomorrow.
Jill has the mic.
The Safety Committee in closed session is meeting now in the East Room, and starting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, the safety meeting will be open for anybody who would like to sit in and participate. The East Room, Regulum, it's on the agenda. You'll see it there.
He has a copy of it. It's in writing somewhere. Without objection, the first order of business before the Assembly this afternoon will be the nomination of officers. First order of business, if we conclude the nominating procedures this afternoon, the first order of business tomorrow morning will be the report of the Constitution, Finance, and Safety Committees. The first order of business this afternoon will be the nomination of officers. If we conclude that process this afternoon and recess, the first order of business in the morning will be the report of Constitution, Finance, and Safety. For the purposes of expediting the nominating procedures and referring to the rules, as time limitations imposed by the Rules Committee, for purposes of the nominations and the secondings, the Chair would appreciate if the nominations and the seconding speeches were given from the floor microphones. All 6 mics are operational now, and the acceptance speech by the candidate from the podium. In accordance with the PATCO Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, nominations for offices are now in order. The first office is for the Executive Vice Presidency of PATCO. Nominations are now in order. Chair recognizes the delegate. I guess Mike 2 is still out, John.
All right.
You try it again? Billy Taylor, try 2 again, would you? Okay, it's in now.
Mr. President, members of the Executive Board, and fellow controllers and guests, the years since the inception of PATCO and their bid for exclusive recognition have been fruitful years. We have seen a second career and retirement package that is the envy of many federal workers. We have a negotiated expanded FAM trip program, which now includes foreign travel. There have been many controllers upgraded due to reclassification, and more upgrading still to come. We have seen the birth of a facility rep school to help local representatives serve you better. We have a representative of the National Transportation Safety Board. We've had a sharp increase of membership, and we can go on and on. As William Green, early labor leader and one-time president of the AFL, said in a speech in 1925, A labor union is an elemental response to the human instinct for group action in dealing with group problems. This describes PATCO to a T. United for a common cause. In attaining our goals, we were blessed with capable and energetic leaders who gave unceasingly of their time and talents. One such man is our Executive Vice President, Robert E. Poli. Bob started in the FAA in 1959 as a controller at the old Pittsburgh Center, which is consolidated with Cleveland Center in 1962. Bob was president of Cleveland Center Local 203 prior to being selected to the office of Executive Vice President in 1972. Bob ran again and was successful in his bid for the same office in 1975 and brings 6 years of experience as Executive Vice President to the convention. The duties and responsibilities of the office of Executive Vice President are many and varied. They include, but are not limited to, responsibility to the President for the day-to-day operation of the organization, entrusted with the responsibility of all funds of the organization, including political action funds, serves as a member of the National Negotiating Team, direct liaison between regional vice presidents and the President of the organization, other duties as assigned by the President. There is no doubt that the office of Executive Vice President is a very responsible position. Over the past 6 years, the duties have been expanded and Bob has met each challenge successfully. We are indeed fortunate to have a man of Bob's caliber in our organization. It is with great deal of personal pleasure that I place a nomination to the office of Executive Vice President of PATCO, the name of Robert E. Poli. Thank you.
Robert E.
Mr. Chairman.
Poli's name is placed in nomination for Executive Vice President. Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Colin Smith, Chicago Center. I consider it an honor and a privilege to second the nomination of Robert E. Poli.
Is there another second? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 1. Make that microphone 2.
Gary Hart, Houston Center. During my 10 years of association with PATCO, I've had the opportunity and pleasure of serving with many great men, some whose names many of you would not recognize. I consider Bob Poli, who has served this organization's Executive Vice President through much of my involvement, to be a member of this very select group of individuals. My close association with Bob began 4 years ago during my term as Finance Committee member and later as Chairman. Bob always provided the committee with all requested information without questioning its necessity. He was then and is now champion of the members of this organization, making every effort to provide them with worthwhile benefits and meaningful direction. Hear this well. Provide for the members. This is what it's all about. Knowing this, I proudly second the nomination of Robert E. Poli for Executive Vice President of the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the Executive Vice President.
I gratefully accept the nomination for Executive Vice President of PATCO. I had the honor of serving you in 1972 when elected to the position, and again in '75. With your cooperation and help, I think we have met the challenge. I think we have moved forward to make PATCO the progressive organization that it is. I request your support again this time. We consider a great honor serving you again in this position. Thank you very much.
The nominations for Executive Vice President are in order. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, sisters, brothers, and guests, I hereby place the name of Patrick Zimick in nomination for the office of Executive Vice President of PATCO. Pat's intentions and integrity are beyond reproach. He is an able brother who truly cares about the future course of this organization. I call upon each of you to carefully consider his candidacy. Thank you.
The name Patrick Zimick has been placed in nomination for Executive Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination?
The nomination of Patrick Zimick for Executive Vice President, KC, Minneapolis.
The nomination has been made and seconded. Is there another second? Mr. Zimick?
For the last 18 months, there has been one question about PATCO that keeps crossing my mind. Is PATCO really a union? To all appearances, we are. We have a structured organization. We have a professional staff in Washington. We've got a national contract with our employer. We pay dues. We have a national convention. We have a national newsletter. And we are affiliated with the AFL-CIO. It certainly looks like we are a union. Outwardly, we appear to be strong and effective. But there are some cracks in that facade. We have several facilities engaged in their own job actions. We have several facilities engaged in their own litigation because they feel that is the only way to get what they deserve. We have controllers at some facilities who do not appreciate and work with controllers at other facilities. We have members who feel isolated and powerless. While our contract is considered by some to be the best in the federal sector, it is not effective enough. And for many who pay dues to support our professional union staff, the only raises realized come from inadequate cost of living increases. These problems are serious and widespread. We cannot shrug them off as only the views of a few chronic complainers any longer. We need direct controller input at the national level. This organization was founded because we have a common bond. We are all air traffic controllers. Yet there are no longer controllers at the national level, only professional leaders. Because the nature of the work at the national level insulates our leaders from the problems of today's controller, the people there are responding to the internal political pressure from a small percentage within the organization. They have sought to place responsibility for apathy in the organization on the shoulders of controllers, when in fact the apathy is more a result of leadership that has set goals for the organization that have a meaningful effect for only a few. Goals that lack definition, are low, and therefore don't get the needed support. Leadership has called poorly planned job actions with little time for coordination. Their internal political struggles for job security has forced them to play facilities off against each other. Legitimate criticism of national objectives and policies is condemned as an attempt to destroy the organization. Finally, their unnecessary secrecy in national negotiations has led to lack of support. Controllers, and we are all controllers, we need at least one direct representative at the national office. If I am Executive Vice President, I will act as an ombudsman for all controllers. I intend to do the following: spend time in facilities with controllers, represent the views of controllers at board meetings, and pursue controllers' needs before organizational expediency. If elected, I will not be running for any national office in 3 years, so there will be no political pressure on me to get reelected. And I will not have to compromise your interests just to keep a job. It's time for you to put an air traffic controller in the national office of the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. Thank you.
Before I proceed with the nominations by region, I'd ask that the nominator, and also the seconder, please identify your name and your facility. Are there any other nominations for Executive Vice President? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Nominations are now closed for Executive Vice President. Nominations are now in order for the Eastern Regional Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Jack Seddon, New York Center. Brothers and sisters, it is with great pride and admiration that I take this opportunity to nominate a brother New Yorker for the position of PATCO Eastern Regional Vice President. It does not seem that it was that long ago this organization was founded, Yet reminiscing through the past 10 years, I can clearly see the progress and initiative we have aspired to. The position of Regional Vice President in itself is no easy task, for one must be able to accept the criticism as well as those he criticizes. He must also maintain the standards of his organization as well as have the foresight to project the future. This individual has had, and I am sure will continue to have, those attributes in the future. I have had the pleasure of working with this individual in one capacity or another for over the past 10 years, and I can honestly state that his dedication, energy, and resourcefulness for the benefit of PATCO and the members he represents are beyond reproach. The growth of PATCO, as well as the goals our organization has attained, are in part largely due to the knowledge and strength he has given us. As a person, he has always maintained a standard of independence, whether that independent thinking be locally, regionally, or nationally. Although highly refuted at times for his progressive unionism, his unshaken belief in his programs have prevailed. It goes without saying that we will always have varying opinions regarding the concept of PATCO and its future. And it goes without saying that we will have differences of opinions with the individual responsible for providing the leadership and direction of his region. However, the health and prosperity of this organization was founded under that very premise. The individual I am about to present to you can take the heat, and it goes without saying that I can generate plenty of that. I enjoy our differences of opinion because we have always had the one common denominator many never find: respect. Respect for one another as well as respect for one individual's ideas. Most of you know me well enough that I would never compromise my beliefs as to the leadership qualities required to maintain this organization, and it is with this in mind that I nominate a true friend and a true brother, Mr. George Kerr, for the office of PATCO Regional Vice President, Eastern Region.
George Kerr has been placed in nomination as Eastern Regional Vice President. Or any second? Chair recognizes microphone 3.
Gary Fitzgerald, Bradley Tower, Eastern Region. Last year at Miami, we elected just one regional vice president. He became what many of us viewed as a probationary VP, as his term was for but 1 year. His ratings during the last year have been excellent. This year, there's only one candidate for Eastern Region Vice President. Many of you are probably wondering why. I submit there are probably only two possible answers, either apathy or satisfaction. I doubt that anyone in this room thinks the Eastern Region is, ever has been, or ever will be apathetic. The answer must be satisfaction. As a result of his leadership, our strength has been renewed. With his guidance, many projects which seemed hopeless have been transformed into reality. I'm confident with him as our guide, we will make tomorrow's impossibilities attainable tomorrow. A brother and sister controllers, with great pride and deep respect, that I second the nomination of George W. Kerr.
Is there another second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Ed Winnemar, Pittsburgh Tire. It would be easy enough to cite the many reasons why George Kerr should be elected for the Eastern Regional Vice Presidency, but since he is unopposed, which in itself is a compliment, I think it would be suffice to say that George Kerr has met his commitment toward PATCO and the people in the Eastern Region, and it's for that reason that I second his nomination.
Chair recognizes George Kerr, Eastern Regional Vice President.
I'd like to thank the members of the Eastern Region for bestowing upon me the honor and the privilege of serving as the Eastern Regional Vice President for the forthcoming 3 years. I look forward to the challenge. I'm certain that we're up to it, and will continue to progress as we have in the past. In the interest of brevity, thank you.
Any other nominations for Eastern Regional Vice President? Hearing none, nominations are closed for that position. Nominations are now in order for the Southern Regional Vice Presidency. And since we're going alphabetically on the listings, Mr. Ray Buck from Memphis Center, I have a message that I'd like to read unless Ray would like to deliver it himself. Mr. Buck, present. This is addressed to Mr. Robert Poli. It is with regret that I ask that my name be removed as candidate for Regional Vice President, Southern Region. I would like to thank the controllers from Memphis, Miami, and Jacksonville centers that voted their support in this election, and to the terminals within this region that have pledged their support. I have a very deep love for this organization and for the brothers and sisters from the Southern region. I pledge my support for and look forward to working with Dave Siegel in the years to come. From Ray Buck. Are there any other nominations? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
Ron Levesque from Tampa Tower. Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers and guests, it is my personal honor and pleasure to place in nomination Mr. David Siegel for re-election to the high and important office of Vice President of PATCO Southern Region. Dave is a true professional leader in every sense of the word. I have known my brother Dave for 7 years, 2 years as Jacksonville Center President and 5 years as the Southern Region Vice President. Through these years, Dave has proved beyond any doubt. Equally as important, Dave has demonstrated his proven abilities as a professional leader and manager of PATCO's largest region. In the South, we have grown under his leadership to become a viable asset to PATCO, not only in numbers, but in strength as well throughout the many trials and tests to which our union has been put and emerged victorious. 5 years ago, I told Dave to tell me the way it is, not the way he thought I wanted to hear, so that I may keep my local membership informed of the facts and issues so that they would have all they need to make their decisions. My brother Dave has lived true to his word. I have never once been led astray. On occasion, Dave and I have differed on some matters, but we have always been able to discuss these different points of view and reach the right decisions. Dave's record in settling grievances and successfully processing arbitration cases is without equal. Through the past years, he has gained experience and developed a second sense on the handling of these issues between FAA management and our union. His ability to determine and develop the right line of attack in arbitration cases is a valuable asset to us all. The line of communications to our national office, both up and down, have been established and utilized in an efficient, productive, and professional manner through Dave. Brothers and sisters, communications is a two-way street. It is not enough for the Vice President to communicate with you, but the facility reps and the voting representatives must be equally responsible and take the initiative and contact the Vice President on problems and issues of concern at their levels and ensure that these communications continue downward. Dave Siegel has developed professional contacts and experience through these past 5 years. And brothers and sisters, this experience is our greatest asset. Just like you and I have taken a great deal of time to become experienced and professional air traffic controllers, Dave Siegel has taken the time and has become a regional vice president all of PATCO can be proud of. We of the Southern Region must now re-elect Dave Siegel and continue to take advantage of his professional, responsible leadership. Thank you.
The name David Siegel has been placed in nomination for Southern Regional Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the delegate microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, brothers and sisters and guests, it's a particular pleasure for me, being from a small facility, to second the nomination of Dave Siegel for Southern Region Vice President. Thank you.
Is there another second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
Max Boyer, Atlanta Tower. Brother and sister controllers, it gives me great pleasure to also second the nomination of David Siegel for Southern Region Vice President. Several months ago, Dave asked me if I would be his campaign manager, and I readily accepted the opportunity to help him get reelected, because over the last 5 years, I have personally seen Dave become a professional, responsible leader. The type of leadership that Dave possesses is essential to a viable PATCO, and we in the South I've been fortunate to have a man such as Dave be our regional vice president. He has learned through experience how to best represent the controllers, and we in the Southern region need Dave Sigel to continue as our professional, responsible leader. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Executive Vice President from the Southern Region.
Mr. Chairman, guests, brothers, sisters, and members, PATCO. During this campaign, there was healthy dissent in the Southern region. That's one of the greatest assets of PATCO. We can have healthy dissent and then reunite. I thank my brothers and sisters from the Memphis area in reuniting the region now in the South. I look forward to continue serving you for another 3 years. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for Southern Regional Vice President? Nominations for the Southern Regional Vice Presidency are now closed. Nominations are now in order for the Pacific Region Vice President. Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman and guests, Ray Fox, Anchorage Center. I'd like to take this privilege placed before you, a name that a lot of you haven't heard, but one that we're going to hear a lot more of. Man with a lot of drive, a lot of gumption, a will to get the job done, a man that will get the job done. I'd like to place in nomination as Pacific Region Vice President Dwayne Bledsoe from Anchorage Center.
Dwayne Bledsoe's name has been placed in nomination as Vice President of the Pacific Region. Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman, fellow brothers and sister controllers, my name is Craig Potter from Honolulu Center, and I, with pleasure, second the nomination for Dwayne Bledsoe for the Pacific Regional VP slot. Thank you.
Is there another second to the nomination of Dwayne Bledsoe? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 5.
Pat Sedlacek from Guam C-Rep. I proudly second the nomination of Dwayne Bledsoe.
Chair recognizes Mr. Dwayne Bledsoe.
Brothers and sisters, thank you very much. I gratefully accept that nomination.
Are there other nominations for the Pacific Regional Vice Presidency? Chair recognizes microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Roger Hicks, Honolulu Center. In the 10 years since PATCO came to Honolulu, many controllers have come forward and worked their butts and their hearts out for the controllers and PATCO. One in particular stands out from the rest. This individual has given so much of himself for the fellow controllers in PATCO, he is considered by some as PATCO in the Pacific region. I know of no other individual in PATCO who has given so much of his own time and effort in behalf of controllers in PATCO that he is known and respected by his fellow controllers around the country. For his diligence and commitment to making the lot of the controllers a better one, this individual is now a candidate for PATCO Pacific Vice President. His presence as a member of the National Executive Board will be an asset to PATCO and all its members, and not just the Pacific region. So with great pride and pleasure, I place in nomination the name of Norbert Cadero.
Norbert Cordero has been placed in nomination as Pacific Regional Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes microphone 5.
Mr. President, fellow controllers, my name is Carl Kamioka, Homeland Center, Pacific Region. I've known Norbert Codera since 10 years since I've started FAA, and I've known him to be an honest guy, and I've been with him to all the seminars and convention. It is my honor and privilege to second his nomination for Pacific Vice President. Thank you.
Is there another second to the nomination of Norbert Cordero? Chair recognizes microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman, Norbert Cordero from Honolulu Center. I accept the nomination for Regional Vice President, Pacific Region.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for Pacific Regional Vice President? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 6.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Executive Board, honored guests, brother and sister controllers. I'm Dave Fitzgerald from Anchorage Tower Rapcon. My entire FAA and concurrent PATCO career has been in Alaska. We have a different structure in Alaska, that of a statewide local terminals. I was its first Secretary-Treasurer, then Treasurer, presently serving my second term as President. With these duties, I've worked very closely with the incumbent Regional VP of the Pacific Region, Charlie Campbell. Charlie was one of the original organizers of PATCO and one of the original National Executive Board members. Although we're the smallest in numbers, our region is the largest in area and has some of the worst equipment and so-called managers. Its expanse creates special problems for travel, communications, among others. Through Charlie's efforts, we have solved most of our problems and are making significant headway towards the others. Some accuse Charlie of concentrating too much on arbitration cases, but look at the statistics on our grievances. Like it or not, all of our significant gains are ones that the FAA has continuously forced to the arbitration stage. They've caused it to be one of the most important jobs of the regional VPs, and Charlie's record proves he can beat them at their own game. Others say he has not supported the wishes of their own facility, but failed to mention that this support was proven to be that of the prevailing national membership, and PATCO is a national organization. I believe all the candidates are good candidates, but I believe Charlie is the best candidate. He has brought the Pacific region a long way. It still has a ways to go, but he has it headed in the right direction. We cannot afford to regress at this point. We need his experience. For these reasons, I nominate the incumbent, Charles Campbell, for Vice President of the Pacific Region of PATCO. Thank you.
The name of Charles Campbell has been placed in nomination for Pacific Region Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 5.
Mr. Chairman, Terry Fogarty from Honolulu Tower, and I proudly second the nomination of Charles Campbell for PATCO Pacific Vice President.
Mr. Charles Campbell has been nominated and seconded. Is there another second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the incumbent Executive Vice President, Charles Campbell from the Pacific Region.
Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, fellow members. Being from the smallest region, I'd like to make my remarks the smallest also. I gladly accept. Thank you very much.
Are there any other nominations for the Vice Presidency of the Pacific Region? Seeing none, nominations are now closed for Pacific Region Vice President. Nominations are now in order for the Central Regional Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes delegate approaching microphone 1.
Is this one working? John Haggerty, Denver Center. It's indeed a pleasure and a distinct honor for me to stand before you today to place a nomination in the name of a man I respect very much for Central Region VP, Mr. Max Winter. During my term of office at Denver, I've learned a great deal from Max, and he's helped me quite a bit. And I urge all members in the Central Region to support Max Winter.
Max Winter has been placed in nomination for Central Regional Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 4.
Thank you. Victor Keel, Denver Tower. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. First off, I feel the Central Region is lucky in that we have two very competent individuals running for our regional VP. And personally, I've been tried very objectively in my own mind to make the decision on who I'm going to support in this election. But to change horses just for the sake of change is irrational and a very weak argument as far as I'm concerned. I've been a facility rep in this region at a level 2, a level 3 terminal. I've been on the executive board of a level 4 and a level 5 terminal. NTSB rep for 3 years, and a terminal voting rep for 3 years, all while Max has been the regional VP for the last 4 years. During this 4-year period, Max and I have been involved deeply in all aspects of the union: grievances, ULPs, aircraft accidents, local organization, etc., and on a personal level. We have not always agreed, and to say that I think Max has always made the right or the most advantageous decision would be a fallacy. But Max has been helpful to me in every position I've held within PATCO to the maximum, has exceeded any and all expectations that I would expect from my regional VP. Max's knowledge, abilities, and his personal sacrifices, and he has made them, believe me, have done nothing but to enhance PATCO's progress in our region. I could talk for hours on individual issues in which Max has helped myself, other individuals, other officers, and other locals within our region. One issue that really sticks out in my mind is that 4 years ago, when Max was originally elected, we had a definite split within our region between East and West. And in my opinion, and the opinion, I think, of everybody in our region, irregardless of who they're voting for, he has brought our region together. And that is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. We have a consolidated region. And I feel it a privilege and an honor to be able to second Max Winter for Regional VP for the Central Region. Thank you.
Is there a second to the nomination of Max Winter for Central Regional Vice President? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching mic 1.
Mike Powers, Des Moines, Iowa. Mr. Chairman, brothers and sisters, I agree with the remarks of Mr. Haggerty in the second on the motion of Mr. Max Winter for Central Region Vice President. In my experience as facility representative at both a Level 1 and Level 3 tower, I can vouch for Max's concern for his membership, regardless of the size of the facility. Max has never failed to support and represent my members, no matter how much time and effort was required. He was always available to me when I need him, whether by phone or in person. Max has shown me that he is genuinely concerned and interested in the needs and desires of the members. I would like to ask all Central Region reps here at this convention to support Max Winter in his bid for another term as Regional Vice President. Let's keep the experience on the job. Thank you.
Is there another second to the nomination of Max Winter? Chair recognizes Executive Vice President of the Central Region, Max Winter.
Brothers and sisters, I very humbly and gratefully accept your nomination. Thank you.
Any other nominations for Central Regional Vice President? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 1.
Rich McLaughlin, Kansas City Center. Mr. President, brother and sister controllers, and distinguished guests, it is an honor and a privilege to stand before this body to nominate Gary Eads for Central Regional Vice President. Speaking on behalf of the controllers at Kansas City Center, Gary Eads is a respected and well-liked individual who, as the next Central Regional Vice President, will perform his duties in a superb manner. Gary served on the first PATCO negotiating team. He has held the office of President of our local for 3.5 years, and he is presently serving as an NTSB representative. This experience, along with his dedication to PATCO, will serve to make Gary Eads an outstanding Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Gary Eads has been placed in nomination for Central Regional Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 1.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Fearing, St. Louis Tower. I rise in support of an individual who has once again come up front, though it's a hell of a lot easier to sit back and merely complain. I join my brothers in St. Louis and other facilities across this region in seconding the nomination of Mr. Gary Eads for Central Region Vice President. Thank you.
Gary Eads has been nominated and seconded. Is there another second? Chair recognizes Gary Eads, Kansas City Center.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Brothers and sisters, I do accept the nomination for the Central Region Vice Presidency. For the past 6 months, I have taken my campaign to the members of the Central Region because it's the members of the Central Region that I want to make the selection in this election. I take great pride in our organization. I have great confidence in our organization, and I have confidence in myself. I'm requesting your support in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Are there any other nominations for Central Regional Vice President? Nominations for Central Regional Vice President are closed. Nominations are now in order for the Great Lakes Regional Vice Presidency.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the delegate microphone 3.
Colin Smith, Chicago Center. Brothers and sisters, controllers, it is with great pleasure that I nominate Robert E. Meyer for the position of Great Lakes Regional Vice President. Bob's past record speaks for itself, and I can only say that we're truly fortunate to have such a man to lead us to future triumphs. Thank you.
Robert Meyer has been placed in nomination for the Great Lakes Regional Vice President. Is there a second to that nomination?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Johnson, Indianapolis Terminals. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, brother and sister controllers, distinguished guests. It is my opinion that the Great Lakes region is blessed with one of the most responsive regional vice presidents in all of PATCO. With this in mind, it is my great personal with great personal pride that I second the nomination of Robert E. Meyer for re-election to the office of Great Lakes Regional Vice President of the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. Thank you.
Is there another second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Ed Zakovic from Cleveland Center. Mr. President, members of the Executive Board, fellow members and guests. I have known Bob Meyer for over 6 years and have worked closely with Bob the last 4 years. Under his leadership and direction, the Great Lakes region has improved year by year. First as a controller, and for the last 5 years as Great Lakes Regional Vice President, Bob has dedicated himself to improving the controller's lot and has not lost touch with the day-to-day problems of the working controller. I speak with confidence when I say I know Bob Meyer will continue his hard work for PATCO and controllers in the years to come. It is an extreme pleasure to second the nomination of Robert E. Meyer for the office of Great Lakes Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Regional Vice President from the Great Lakes region.
Thank you very much. I deeply and humbly accept that nomination and hope to work for you in the Great Lakes region and for the rest of PATCO for another 3-year term. Thank you.
Nominations are in order for Great Lakes Regional Vice President. Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 3.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Kelly O'Brien from Minneapolis Center.
I'm honored to submit the name of Bruce Larson for Regional Vice President of the Great Lakes Region. Bruce has been actively involved in PATCO since its inception. His vast knowledge and experience will benefit us all from the Great Lakes region. Thank you.
Bruce Lawson has been placed in nomination for Vice President of Great Lakes. Is there a second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Casey, Minneapolis Center. I second the nomination. Bruce Larson, Great Lakes VP.
Is there another second to the nomination? Chair recognizes Bruce Lawson from Minneapolis Center.
My name is Bruce Larson. I accept the nomination. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for Great Lakes Regional Vice President? Nominations are now closed for Great Lakes Regional Vice Presidency. Nominations are now in order for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes microphone 4. Sorry, brother.
Mr. Chairman, brothers and sisters, Carl Settle, Fort Worth Meacham. I come to you to place in the nomination for the office of Southwest Regional Vice President a determined and experienced candidate. This man was appointed to serve after our elected Vice President accepted a position at the national level. He is acquainted with the problems that this office entails and is one who has achieved great strides in dealing with the bureaucratic machine of King Henry. A sincere candidate who represents with equal favor all facilities, regardless of size, from the facility with 2 members to the facility with 357 members. This candidate has and will represent all. His loyalty to PATCO, its goals, and the goals of the membership are unquestionable. PATCO controllers, my candidate, the next regional vice president, I place into nomination George Brandon.
George Brandon's name has been placed in nomination for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency. Is there a second to that nomination? Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 4.
Fellow controllers of the Southwest, John Neal, Houston Approach. I stand before you to second the nomination of our regional VP. He has the experience and knowledge to effectively function as a negotiator, an arbitrator, an educator, and a communicator. His only promise is to work and proudly represent the Southwest. He was the best choice in July, and he is still the best choice today, to work and lead this region into a new era of awareness and responsibility within PATCO and the mainstream of labor relations in the Southwest. It is with confidence and the common sense of my fellow controller and my belief in reality and this working man that I proudly second the nomination of George Brandon as VP of the growing Southwest.
George Brandon has been nominated and second. Is there another second? Recognize the delegate microphone 4.
Ernie Brown from Dallas-Fort Worth Tower. I am proud to second the nomination of George Brandon for Southwest Regional Vice President. I have known and worked with George over the past 3.5 years. He has always given 100% in the interest of PATCO, and I know he'll continue to do so. Let's elect George Brandon, Vice President, Southwest Region.
Chair recognizes the Executive Vice President, the Vice President of the Southwest Region, George Brandon.
Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers, it is with a great deal of pride and honor that I accept this nomination. Thank you. Nominations are in order for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency.
Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 4.
It is a pleasure today to nominate a man who has been a personal friend of mine for 17 years. He started his air traffic control career in the Air Force. His FAA qualifications are 18 years as a terminal and en route controller. He's been active in the Union, serving the Southwest region for 3 years on the national negotiating team for our first 2 contracts. He's also served as president and voting rep for Fort Worth Center for 4 years and is currently the Southwest Regional Legislative Action Coordinator. To my brothers and sisters in the Southwest region, I challenge each one of you to stop thinking in the terms of yesterday. Yesterday is now history. We can learn by our mistakes we, as individuals or as a union, made yesterday. But we must start today, working for today and the future. And with that in mind, and the future of PATCO Southwest, I nominate Jerry Tuso for Southwest Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Gerald Tuso has been placed in nomination for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency. Is there a second to that nomination? Recognize the delegate microphone 4.
Mr. President, I'm Ed Montoya from Albuquerque Tower. It is with great pride that I second the nomination of Jerry Tuso for the Vice President of the Southwest Region. Jerry is a loyal PATCO member that has worked very hard for PATCO. It is time that we in the Southwest Region elect a Vice President that will speak for the controllers. Jerry Tuso is that man. Thank you.
Is there another second to the nomination? Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 4.
Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers, Jim Coy, Dallas-Fort Worth Tracon. With great pleasure, I second the nomination of Jerry Tuso as Southwest Regional Vice President.
Chair recognizes Jerry Tuso from Fort Worth Center.
Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers, although it may not appear that way at this moment, I am proud, eager, and ready to shoulder the responsibilities of the Southwest region. Thank you.
Nominations are in order for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 1.
I'm Ray Rosari from Houston Tracon, and I'd like to nominate the one individual who will best serve the members of the Southwest region as their VP. That, brothers and sisters, is my friend and fellow Houston Tracon controller, Dick Hoover. In the past several months, I have come to know Dick very well. For many of you, his name is not quite a household word. But, as the politicians say, let's look at the record. Those who have followed his editorials in the Black Pit know where Dick stands. Those who have fought beside him in his campaign for one man, one vote, know where Dick stands. Those who know that improved benefits, such as pay, hours, second career, OWCP, and retirement are won, not at the national level, but at the local level, by strong and effective participation from all members, know where Dick stands. But most important, for those who do not yet know that, Dick's actions as VP will be to see that they do. His objective is 100% members, not membership at 100%. Regardless of the outcome of this election, our local cannot lose. Dick has helped make Local 422 one of the strongest in the Southwest region. Now I ask you to give him the vote he needs to make the Southwest region one of the strongest in the country. Thank you.
Dick Hoover from Houston Tracon has been placed in nomination. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 1.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Elam Holcomb from College Station. I'd like to second the nomination of Dick Hoover for the Regional Vice President of the Southwest Region. Thank you.
There's a nomination and a second. Is there another second? Chair recognizes Dick Hoover from Houston Tracon.
On behalf of all those who have supported me in fact and in principle, I accept this nomination. And I pledge to continue my efforts for revision of the election process. Thank you.
Are there other nominations for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 4.
Andy Eckert, and I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. Since the inception of this organization, PATCO Southwest has historically taken some rather nasty kicks in the teeth subsequent to alleged strikes, sick-outs, slowdowns, etc. There are 2 reasons for this, gentlemen. One, the southern U.S. is in the dark ages with respect to labor relations. Second, we have a serious continuity problem within the organization in the Southwest region. We need a strong individual, a bulldog, if you will, not a politico, a man who works for the man on the boards. That's me, and that's you. I therefore nominate Bobby J. Stevens for the office of Southwest Regional VP. Thank you.
Name Bobby J. Stevens from Little Rock has been placed in nomination. Is there a second to the nomination? Second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 4.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and fellow controllers, I'd like to nominate, second the nomination for Bobby Stevens. 2 facts. We need change in the Southwest region. We're tired of the moto meal approach to Henry Newman, and we feel that Bobby Stevens is the only one that's going to bring the heat down on Mr. Newman and bring change to, bring representation to the grassroots levels of members that pay dues. And this is one of the reasons, or 2 of the reasons that I'm second the motions for Bobby Stevens, is that we need a change in the Southwest region. It needs now. Thank you.
Nomination and a second. Is there another second? Chair recognizes Bobby J. Stevens, Little Rock Tower.
Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers, I accept the nomination, Southwest Regional VP. Thank you.
Are there other nominations for the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency? The chair has been advised that Mr. Freddie Witt from Atlanta Center has withdrawn as a candidate from the Southwest Regional Vice Presidency. Any other nominations for the Southwest Region Vice Presidency? Nominations are now closed for the Southwest Region Vice Presidency. Nominations are now in order for the Western Regional Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Mike Holland from Brackett Tower in Laverne, California. As president of one of the smallest locals in the Western region, I'm proud to have come to this convention to nominate the president of the largest center in our region for regional vice president. Fortunately, it is not necessary for me to introduce Les Hall to any group of PATCO people. You know him already because you've worked with him meeting the challenges that we have faced in years past. His long-term commitment to our union is beyond question. Before the reclass, before there was a regional vice president contest, Les Hall spent his off time meeting and communicating with small terminal reps and small terminal members. For more than 2 years, he has encouraged our participation, cooperated with us in our projects, and proved to us that controllers, centers and terminals, big and small, we are all controllers, and the greatness of this union depends on our working together. Les Hall does not come to us on the eve of an election with words. He has been with us day by day, showing his interest and helping us to keep the faith when it seemed that we had been forgotten. The work of organizing locals throughout the 6 states of PATCO West is done, and it's done well. And we are grateful to those who led the way in the organizing campaigns of the past. But we think that the times call for a new talent, for new skills to meet the new needs of PATCO West. 1978 needs a man to heal wounds, to identify the new challenges, to devise solutions, and to build the unity and cooperation which alone is the strength of our organization. That is so necessary to the achievement of our common goals. Mr. Chairman, I nominate Les Hall to be Vice President of PATCO West.
Les Hall has been placed in nomination for the Western Regional Vice Presidency. Is there a second to that nomination? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Randy Skifted from Los Angeles, Tracon. I feel it important to point out a brief resume of Les Hall's affiliation with PATCO as I know it. Les and I were hired by the FAA in 1968 as a direct result of the emergence of PATCO. In 1970, during the historic PATCO insurgence, there were a handful of controllers involved in the West Coast that I know of that were participating in the insurgents. Les Hall was one of them. As a GS-9 trainee at Los Angeles Center, Les was ill for the duration of the alleged sick-out, and being a trainee under the probationary period, he was subject to dismissal without recourse. Les's record since that time is just as exemplary, and it took a lot of guts to do that, and he has proved it time and time again since 1970. And the Western region is in dire need of a change, and Les Hall is the man we need for the change. And it is with great pleasure that I second the nomination of Les Hall for Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Another second is in order. Chair recognizes the gentleman approaching microphone 2.
Delegates of the Western Region, I'm Sam Wachtel from Los Angeles Center. It's with great pleasure that I have worked with Les Hall for the past 3 years in PATCO. I've seen Les be a strong and effective leader at Los Angeles Center. He is the kind of leader that we need now in PATCO West. It gives me great pleasure to second the nomination of Les Hall.
Chair recognizes Les Hall from Los Angeles Center.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, fellow controllers from the Western Region, I gratefully and humbly accept your nomination for Western Region Vice President. I know I can do the job. I'll give you 110%. I'll listen to you, and I'll respond to you. I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Nominations are in order for the Western Region Vice Presidency. Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charlie Hall, McCord Rapcon. I'm going to place before you a name of a man that has worked his butt off for this Western region. He has not always done everything that I wanted him to do, or some of the other facilities in the region. But he's given 150% of everything that he's got going. So 110 is not good enough. No, I like Les. We've got some good candidates in the Western region. We've got some dissension. But when it's all over with, we'll pull together. I'd like to place a nomination Darrell Reason for Regional VP of the Western region. He served us for 6 years in excellence as far as I'm concerned. I know he puts in 16-hour days. He works weekends, nights. He puts his personal life second to our welfare and good. His track record with the FAA and arbitrations and grievances is unequaled anywhere in PATCO, not just the Western region. I don't believe we can just throw that experience out the window. Darrell has always voiced the opinion of PATCO West when we've been in a minority at the national office or on national issues. He's always used his influence to put across what you've asked him to do. I personally guarantee that he will do it in the future. Most important, Darrell theme has always been unity and organization for PATCO West. That's not to say that he'll cut and run with the herd, but he will always fight for your opinions and your views. The majority decision, when it comes down, will be pushed by Darrell to keep the unity and organization of PATCO West going. I've worked with many of Darrell's opponents in this contest. I have respect for all of them. I don't always agree with all of them, but I definitely respect them. But I don't believe that the other candidates going in this election have the experience and the knowledge that Darrell has and that we need in the Western region right now to continue. So I implore my brothers and sisters of PATCO West to stop and think. Don't listen to a bunch of rhetoric. Stop and think, use your heads, and keep the regional vice president that we have right now and the experience. Thank you.
Darrell Reason has been nominated as second. Recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Stevenson from Davis Mountain Rapcon in Tucson, Arizona. It's a great privilege and an honor for me to second the nomination of Darrell D. Reason to the office of Western Region Vice President. I'm sure Darrell will continue to exceed the standards that are needed to perform his job. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the delegate approaching microphone 2.
Mike Payne, Santa Monica Tower, Western Region. Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers, for the past 3 years, I've been facility rep at Santa Monica Tower. Darrell Reason's record speaks for itself. Representing one of the smaller facilities in the Western region, I consider it an honor and a privilege to second the nomination of Darrell Reason, PATCO Regional VP, Western Region. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Western Regional Vice President, Darrell Reason.
Mr. Chairman, brothers and sisters, it's with great pleasure I gratefully accept the nomination of Regional Vice President, and we will persevere.
Okay. Nominations for Western Region Vice President are still in order.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 1.
Ralph Orline, Oakland Center. President Layden, Vice President Poli, fellow members, distinguished guests. It is time for a change. It is time for a leader. Marshall Lee has 8 years of leadership experience in PATCO West. Marshall Lee is dedicated and devoted. He's paid his dues and he's fought the wars. It's now time for him to accede to higher office to help us all. It is with great honor that I nominate Marshall E. Lee as the next Vice President from PATCO West. Thank you.
Marshall Lee has been nominated. Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 1.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Harvey Johnson, Oakland Center, and I second the motion for Marshall Lee, Western Regional Vice President.
Is there another second to the nomination? Chair recognizes Marshall Lee from Oakland Center.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was 8 years ago, about this month, that we convened in this great city and made another choice for the future of PATCO. I think it was a correct choice, as the last 10 years have shown. Now we have the second decade of PATCO, and it is time for a change again. I am proud to rise before this assembly and accept the nomination for PATCO West Regional Vice President, and I will serve our members well. Thank you.
Other nominations are in order for Western Regional Vice President. Recognize the delegate, microphone 1.
Mr. Chairman, brother and sister controllers and guests, it is with great pleasure that I stand before you today to nominate Bob Peterson for the office of Western Regional Vice President. I feel that he exemplifies the progressive attitude that our membership requires today. Our organization is moving into a new phase, the new era of PATCO, if you will, an era dedicated upon progressiveness, dedication, and energy. I am grateful for the achievements of our brothers and sisters in the past. In the formative years of PATCO, the growing pains were many. The inherent problems of the office of Regional Vice President were as yet unknown. But today, we have identified those problems. Now we must strive to solve them. We must direct our attention to the PATCO of today. A little-known candidate, only 6 months ago, Bob has generated enthusiastic support throughout the region and has instilled a new hope in the meaning of representation. Not only responsible representation, but representation that is responsive to the needs of each individual member. Throughout Bob's campaign, he has remained in contact with the grassroots member and has become aware of the problems. An effective communicative program combined with an area coordinator program has brought about a new understanding of the word leadership. Brothers and sisters, I nominate Bob Peterson for PATCO West Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Robert Peterson has been placed in nomination for Western Regional Vice President. Is there a second to the nomination? Recognize the delegate, microphone 2.
Jim Banna, Los Angeles Tracon. I've worked closely with Bob in our dealings with the Los Angeles facility management. Bob has been an extremely effective PATCO representative. I know Bob's ability and desire to do a good job will be reflected in the regional vice president position. It is my pleasure to second the nomination of Bob Peterson for Western Region Vice President.
Is there another second to the nomination? Recognize the delegate approaching microphone 2.
Mr. Chairman, Carol Emmerich, Palomar Tower, near San Diego. I proudly like to second the nomination for Bob Peterson, Vice President of the Western Region.
Chair recognizes Robert Peterson. Bob Peterson.
Fellow air traffic controllers and families and guests of air traffic controllers, we are here today because we are concerned about the goals of our union. Many hard-working members have brought us many achievements in the past. We have achievements to make in the future. We are moving into a new phase, and new phases require new ideas, and new ideas require new people. Last summer, I was concerned enough about the problems of the air traffic controller to stand up from the grassroots and campaign for his cause. Today, the grassroots PATCO member knows me, but more importantly, I know the grassroots PATCO member, and I'm proud to know him, and I will be proud to fight for his cause. And with that fight, I accept the nomination for PATCO West Regional Vice President.
The further nominations for Western Regional Vice President.
Mr. Chairman, Larry
Recognize
Wessel.
the delegate, microphone 1. I apologize.
Larry Wessel, Bay Tracon. It is my pleasure to come before this body to place a nomination Dominic Torchia for Western Regional Vice President. I've known Dominic for quite a few years. He's put a lot of work into this organization. He has the experience and background to once again reunite the Western region. He carries the banner for all controllers, not just a select few. He has a deep concern for the problems that face the Western region on a daily basis and also the future direction of this national organization. It is my pleasure to nominate Dominic Torchia for Western Regional Vice President. Thank you.
Dominic Torchia has been placed in nomination. Is there a second to the nomination? Recognize the delegate at microphone 1.
My name is Karen Wessel. I'm from Oakland Center. And I forgot what I was going to say. Because I want to see a new leadership and increased credibility in this office, because I want to see that disgruntled PATCO member brought back tightly into the fold, because of his record of sincere dedication and successful representation of us all, I'm honored to second the nomination of Dominic Torchia for Western Regional Vice President.
Chair recognizes Dominic Torchia.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Karen. I came to Las Vegas 8 years ago with $60 in my pocket and no place to sleep. Here I am here again 8 years later. Nothing's changed. One thing will change, though. PATCO will, and I'll be there 8 years from now. Thank you.
The chair has been advised by Mr. Lewis Martin that he'd like to withdraw his name as a candidate for Western Regional Vice President. Are there any other nominations for Western Regional Vice Presidency? Nominations are now closed for the Western Regional Vice Presidency. I think it might be proper and in order right now for everyone assembled here to give a hand for all of the candidates who are running for office. That's been the best surprise in the 8 years since I've been president of PATCO, that we got through the nominations in a lot shorter period than we anticipated. With that in mind, and with hopes that we won't go into a midnight session on Wednesday, I'd like, without objection, to proceed on the agenda so we can complete as much work today as possible. Because of a number of questions that have been asked on the constitutional package that has been presented, I think it would be in the interest of all assembled here to have the chairman of the Constitution Committee address the Assembly now and answer any questions that you might have on some of the proposed changes. No amendments, no debates at this particular time. This is simply for background information for all of us assembled. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Constitution Committee.
First of all, for those who don't know me, my name's Tom Faring. I'm a controller at St. Louis Tower. To clarify one particular situation right off the bat, as far as Article 2 is concerned, the committee discussed it last night, and for those of you who have the proposed amendments in front of you, under Section B, the second to last sentence reads, "shall be held 30 days after the original tabulation." With no objection, and we talked about it, that all of our notes reflected that the word "within" was between the word "held" and 30. So it would now read, "shall be held within 30 days." The reasoning there being that we did not want to stipulate that if it came down to a runoff between two candidates, that the election would not be held for 30 days after the results of the original tabulation, but within that 30-day period. So if there are no objections to that, write it off as a Scribner's error and include the word "within." As far as the committee rationale on the proposed amendment to Article 2, which includes Section 3 and Section 4, a spin-off article being under Article 9, Section 4. This is a complete package. Basically what it is a mail ballot vote. I'd like to point out, first of all, that should the first section be voted down, the other sections go with it. We would then revert to the present Constitution as far as the elections are concerned, and they would be run, at the next election, if it's not changed prior to that, the way we're doing it now. Does anybody have any questions on Article 2? That being as far as the committee's rationale. Under Article 6, membership. Committee rationale simply stated as it is there is to clarify the union's position regarding voluntary acceptance of temporary assignments outside the bargaining unit. This was a proposal out of Cleveland Center. The committee did change, or massaged, I should say, a few things, like the 120 days, to throw in some time frames. We do realize that there will probably be a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a lot of amendments on this particular article. But this is what we felt, at least as a committee, the best we could come up with. Are there any questions as far as the rationale behind Article 6? Article 7, finance. There really was no major change to this other than in the present Constitution. If you sit down and read that particular article, it states that the salaries of the national office, the National Finance Committee shall review the salaries. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's under dues. The dues of all members of the organization shall be proposed by the Executive Board, reviewed by the National Finance Committee, adopted by the voting representatives at the convention. We felt that if you want to get down to a close call type situation, an individual could look at that and say, well, if it's if the National Executive Board comes up with a recommendation to change the dues, the Finance Committee reviews it, then you, as the main body of this organization, have no choice but to adopt it. So all we did was change the verbiage a little bit. That the voting representative shall now act upon the committee's recommendation, subject to ratification by the membership. Any questions on that article? Somebody have one? The way the present Constitution reads, it states in Section 6 that dues of all members of the organization shall be proposed by the Executive Board, reviewed by the National Finance Committee, adopted by the voting representatives at the convention, and must be ratified by the membership by secret ballot. It was the committee's feeling that if you come down to an interpretation of this, you as the body of this organization, under the verbiage contained in the Constitution the way it reads now, do nothing more than raise your hands and say, yes, we do, because it was proposed by the Executive Board, it was reviewed by the Finance Committee, and under the Constitution we shall adopt it and send it out to the membership. That's not true. You have the right, as the body, to amend, change, vote down, whatever. And that is with the intent of Article 9 the way it reads now. I'm sorry, Article 7. Are there any questions on it? Under Article 9, this once again, let me as a Scribner's error one other time under this particular article, and that being in the rationale. The rationale the way it reads now is to bring the National Negotiating Committee in line with other national standing committees. It was not the intent of the Constitution Committee to dictate to anyone that we consider the negotiating committee a standing committee. Under the present Constitution, it would be another committee. What the intent of this particular change is that we feel, or the committee felt, that the negotiation committee should fall under the same restrictions as the standing committees do now. Any questions on that? Under Article 9, this once again reverts back to Article 2, part of the package. These changes were necessary if we were to go to a mail ballot, because the way the mail ballot, the present voting procedures read, it includes the fact that the voting rep at the convention elects officers. We negated that, plus we tried to strengthen the position, restrictions, responsibilities of a voting representative. Once again, the committee's main objective in this was to basically to strengthen the position and the responsibility of a voting rep. Whether we did it or not remains to be seen. Any questions on that? Yeah. You have to call out. Microphone 3.
Jack said, New York Center. I have a question on this particular change here. Example, if an individual's voting rep is given a written proxy to cast his ballots towards, let's say, somebody that's running for election, and for some reason when he does get to the convention floor and that individual withdraws, what happens to those ballots?
The committee still has a problem within the committee as far as the rationale and the intent behind that, and I'm sure what you're talking about is the first sentence: the voting representative shall vote. We talked about it last night, and I think the general consensus was, I don't know, maybe a couple of members will come up here and strangle me, but that word shall means exactly what it says. If he's committed to come to this convention and vote on a certain article a certain way, it doesn't make any difference whether the article is changed or not. He was told to vote one way or the other.
That didn't really answer the question. What I'm saying is, whether it be, let's say, somebody running for office, or whether it's a constitutional change, whatever the people have in their hands, what you're saying is that a facility rep is going to go to his voting rep and say, on this particular article, just the way it's read, here's the way we want you to vote. That voting rep is now locked into only that issue. If that issue changes, they can't vote on anything else. They can't vote on an amendment to the amendment.
Basically, you're correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that people understand that.
Article 10, committees. If there are many questions on this, if Forrest West is around, he was the author of this particular change. I may get him up here and let him take it. At any rate, the committee's rationale was to basically give more direction as far as the actual election process for national committeemen. Any questions on it? Is Forrest here, by the way? Article 13, the disciplinary article, the discipline article, changes to Section 5, the definition of disciplinary actions. That is basically what it is. The committee felt, as did the authors of this particular change, that the Constitution does not spell out any particular definitions of what such things as censured, suspension, termination, fines, whatever means. We now have the verbiage contained in the Constitution if an amendment like this were to pass. Once again, it's very amendable. Any questions on it? Under Article 14, the appeals. Rationale behind it was that there was a problem that we saw in the old Constitution as far as time parameters. Once a regional VP makes his particular decision in the appeal, or in the case at hand, it was kind of left up to interpretation as to just what the exact time parameters were. Therefore, though it's a long article, that was the basic change to it. There are now a time frame included in there from the regional vice president's position. Any questions on it? That, ladies and gentlemen,
is the package as submitted by the Constitution Committee to this convention.
All right, I have several messages to read, and then we have been advised by the Finance Committee that they'll be ready in about 15 minutes to give their report. They will do the same thing. They'll give their report and the rationale, and that'll give you all night long in your caucuses to discuss it and the reasons why, and we'll be ready to vote on them tomorrow with the amendments, etc. First of all, there is only 35 luncheon tickets that are available. So if you want to go to the luncheon tomorrow, go out to the registration area and get your luncheon ticket right now. There's only 35 left. The Boston terminals will caucus immediately following the Eastern Regional Caucus this afternoon in the Majestic East Room. There will be a champagne party sponsored by Western Airlines. But I'm not going to tell you where it is. No, it's in Suite 1061 tonight. That's the Western Regional Suite. They're borrowing it from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Central Region Caucus is now changed to 4 o'clock. Imperium East. On the slammer count, gentlemen, we have a problem this year. We found out they have a strange law in Nevada. You are allowed to be drunk publicly. And if they want to protect you, they can put you in a slammer for 3 days. This is true, I understand. Security has advised us of this. They can put you in a tank 3 days and you don't have no calls out. So if any of the brothers or the sisters or the wives are missing for 3 days, don't start burying them until the 4th day. All right, we'll take a 15-minute break and then reconvene, hopefully when the finance should be ready. 15 minutes and right back in. The committee will meet at 8:45 tomorrow morning in the Romulus Remus room, and you're advised to be on time or your ass is grass. The Pacific region will caucus immediately now when we break. That's it. See you tomorrow morning, on time.